Hey guys, got two example games to share from this morning. I've had 3 losses and a win. I'm going to share with you the two first games against people with similar rating to me that I played and that I lost. And what's really interesting is that every single move counts. That there's every move almost in a game of chess is an opportunity for the tables to turn. And you cannot afford to let up just for a moment. So here's game number 1. My opponent's rated 1340, so about 100 points lower. We play the Vienna, kind of copycat variation. And this is all fairly normal. I think in both games I do definitely have an advantage at some point. So we have e takes and then bishop recaptures. So I've got a nice certain lead in control of the center. That black now only has the 1 central pawn, I have 2. Bishop comes out, pinning the knight. Queen breaks that and we exchange off. So now I have the bishop pair as well. We have check and I move away with the king. Now, this is a really good example, okay? So, in terms of tactics, when you have a piece under attack, okay, counterattacks can be very good, but only if the piece that you're counter-attacking with cannot itself then be counter-attacked. Okay, so what I decided to do here is, I could have blocked with a knight and whatever, but I decided to move my king and then prepare rook e1. And then there's no way to block. Sorry, knight can't go here and block because rook just captures. Bishop goes here and I take the pawn, okay? Now, so black has a piece currently under attack, and that piece, that this knight now cannot move with check, cannot attack my queen or my king. Okay, so the move that they play is knight takes d5, and now he's down a piece, whole piece. All right, plus his knight's still under attack, and there is still the threat of rook e1. Okay, so now castles, and I grab the knight. Now, critical point in the game. I'm up a piece, okay? I have an extra knight. Black has doubled and isolated pawns. In black's favor, they have a safer king, okay? Now, what I do here is I get greedy, okay? What I should have done is probably simply develop my knight, and then just grind the game down, okay? What I decide to do is to get greedy and capture this pawn, okay? And then attack the rook, so the rook will be forced to move to b8, and I thought that would be kind of okay, right? So I grabbed the pawn. The rook did not move because black has a counterattack, okay? Queen b4 comes with check, and it's a fork on my bishop, right? I just didn't think about it. Just for a moment, I thought, how can I just keep pressing against my opponent? And I forgot the other half of chess, the entire other half, which is defense. Am I protected? Am I safe? Is it okay, right? So I have to move my king. Now bishop comes in with another check, block with a knight, lose my bishop. So now my advantage is gone. I'm up a pawn at this point in time. But now the rook comes across to the open file. I put my rook across, it blocks with the bishop. Now I play rook h to f1, so my idea is to get my king to safety here. Rook comes across, I protect my a2 pawn, and then now there's a fork on queen and knight. And the game doesn't go on much longer, right? It's all over at that point. All came down to a single move, right? Here. I got greedy and grabbed the pawn and forgot to check for threats. I just didn't think about it, right? If I do that, what's my opponent likely to do? And I only thought one-dimensionally. I thought, oh no, my rook's under attack. Bishop there would have also been a very good move. Could have dropped another pawn. But yeah, just take your eye off the ball for one split second, and as you climb up the ratings, it's going to become more and more important, because you will not be able to rely on your opponents making blunders. Okay, let's have a look at game number 2. So here I've got the black pieces, and of course we have the French. Funny premature advance there, and d4 and c5 and a3 is typical, but I can now grab the central pawn with my wing pawn and get the initiative, attacking the queen. Bishop pins the knight, break the pin, and now I kick the bishop, bishop retreats, develop my other knight. So my focus is really this isolated pawn here. So idea is maybe bring the knight to here, 2 attackers on that pawn. Knight comes out, and now the bishop swaps off. I'm kind of happy for that, because the board's quite open. So I'm happy to have the bishop pair again. Okay, so bishop d2, and now I push my pawn forwards. So the idea here is to support bishop c5. Okay, if the king should castle that way, I can put a bishop there in line with a queen and the king potentially. So it's all about just layering up these threats. Okay, now queen c7, maybe I'm going to castle queenside. Knight develops, I castle, knight comes back round. Still relatively straightforward situation. Queen retreats, maybe getting out of the way of this. And now I put my queen across here as well, defending this pawn that queen just moved and attacked. And now knight comes in, and yeah, so I play f5. The white captures en passant, right? But now I have an issue, because with this there is now a discovered attack by the queen, and the pawn is also attacked by the knight. Okay, very, very straightforward tactic. I capture with a pawn, I lose the pawn, but you know, it's still kind of playable. Now I move my rook across with ideas of getting a pin on the knight, queen and king, so the king castle's out of trouble. I now move across, so the knight here cannot capture because it doesn't come with check, because the queen will fall. All right, drop another pawn and I grab the knight. Okay, so at this point I'm a piece up, so I have an extra bishop, but I've lost a couple of pawns, right? So I'm basically 1 pawn up. Queen moves out of trouble, and I grab the bishop. Okay, I'm now 4 bits up. Okay, now queen grabs a pawn, and I attack the queen with the rook behind it. Queen moves, and we trade rooks. Okay, so at this point I'm quite happy to trade. Now I move my bishop across. This comes with a discovered attack on the queen. My queen is defended by my knight. So what is white going to do? Simply moves here, now attacking this knight. Okay, again you see the same thing. A queen fork that I simply did not anticipate. Right, so I'm going to lose either my rook or my knight. I can't see a way of defending both. I can't move either with check, for example, so I move my rook across where it's defended by the bishop. I lose the knight and offer a trade of queens. Now, here comes the critical point. At this point, I actually identified a winning tactic. All right, let's see if you can spot it. Okay, and I considered a variety of moves. And I thought I did quite well. So my first idea was bishop takes pawn on f2, all right? And with that, there's this serious threat. Queen is looking at the c2 pawn, so is my bishop, and that comes with the threat of mate, okay? So let's say I take that. White is going to have to do something to block the mating threat, okay? Then I saw, how about even better? Bishop e3, check, okay, comes with check, completely forcing move. Therefore, blocking with the queen or the knight is not even an option, right? They have to come out of check. Okay, so what's he going to do? block with the rook, you lose the rook. Block with the queen, you lose the queen. If king moves to here, I have queen takes c2, check. Then the king must move again to a1 or a2, all right? But then I'm thinking, look, my bishop's here. Okay, so I couldn't see the final mating pattern that many moves ahead. All right, I've got 11 minutes still on the clock. I've done a good job so far in the game. So what I figured was, well, I'll show you the next move. Bishop takes a3. Could be better than that because I've got threat of mate. Okay, supported by the bishop. And now, if queen takes, now if the king were to move to here, for example, to prevent mate in 1, okay, I've got queen takes c2, and then wherever the king goes, I've got queen takes b2, checkmate, and it's all over. Now, that's all well and good. I have the threat of mate in 1, but that comes on the next move. And I forgot to factor in that my opponent actually has a move. Okay, so white now here thought for a little bit, and only 24 seconds actually, and basically took me apart, right? All based on this, okay? So knight comes in with check, and check is more forcing than the threat of mate, right? When you're in check, you must get out of check on the next move. There's no other option. So I move there, and now I lose my bishop, okay? And the game doesn't go on for that much longer. Too many checks, and I finally lose to checkmate. But here, so this was an error. I just forgot to say, okay, well, if I capture this, right, it's not as forcing as check. This was winning, actually, right? So if I go there with check, rook blocks isn't an option, queen blocks isn't an option, pawn takes isn't an option because of checkmate in 1. Okay, so the king has to move to here, and then I guess queen takes, right? And now the king, let's say the king goes in the corner. How would we convert this? I've got a bishop under threat there, but apparently is totally winning for black at this point. I'm just a pawn up at this time. Let's see, how can we, what's the way to win? Okay, I have an attack on the queen, that's definitely a possibility. But then maybe this, check. I don't know. It would need to be sat down, figured out, but with 11 or so minutes still on the clock, it was possible. It should have been possible, okay? I had the right idea, and then I discarded it in favour of a different idea, but forgetting that my opponent, again, had the opportunity to counterattack and had a check. That's the key thing. Okay, so I think that's pretty instructive for me. I think the thing that I need to be reminding myself at this point is that no matter if I think I've got a winning blow, my opponent might have one more swing, okay? And what could happen with that swing? I simply didn't calculate it through, okay? Simple as that. All right, so there you go. Sobering lesson for me. Every day's a learning day when you're playing chess, eh? So thank you for watching. Hope this has been useful for you, and I'll see you soon.